Alhamdulillah, praise be to God, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah. I bear witness there is no other God but God and His no partners. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So today, my sermon is going to be about religious innovations in our religion and how we're condemned by God. My personal sharing regarding this involves some recent experiences where I witnessed some innovations being creeping into submission. We know we have the purified message now. We have a messenger from God who has, beyond doubt, purified all of our practices for religion, and we have the physical, tangible, mathematical evidence. So we really have no doubt whatsoever about what those practices are and what we need to do. And God has given us a clear roadmap. However, we know that innovations will creep up with time. And we can witness that from history. If we look at the history of religion and how it got corrupted over time, every time a messenger came, the message was purified. And then, as time went on, people started adding things to it. And that's how we see, these all different varieties of religions that came out of it, when they were all supposed to be submitters. So we know about the view in the high society, right? We understand the purpose of our life here when, Satan thought that he could be a God beside God. And, all the feud happened in the heavenly society. We humans were not even as intelligent as the dogs or the trees, and we fail to make a firm stand with God. And this is why we're here now, to see if we will make the firm stand now. And we're being tested as we speak. It says in the introduction that the half that were less convinced of humans failed to make a firm stand. The half that were less convinced of Satan's point of view became classified as humans. Although they harbored doubts about Satan's claim, they failed to make a firm stand regarding God's absolute authority. And this is based on verse 21:15. Humans failed to make a firm stand. We tested Adam in the past, but he forgot, and we found him indecisive. And the footnote says, when Satan challenged God's absolute authority, you and I did not make a firm stand against Satan. God has given us a chance on this earth to redeem ourselves by denouncing Satan and upholding God's absolute authority. So we know that this is our purpose now. And we fail to make a firm stand regarding God's absolute authority. And the view in the heavenly society is mentioned in 38:69. So this is why God has condemned apathy. We see in 5:79, it says, they did not enjoin one another, apathy condemned. They did not enjoin one another from committing evil. Miserable indeed is what they did. So we see that, for whatever reason, whether it's for, not, wanting to hurt other people's feelings, or, the idea of maybe they wouldn't like me anymore, or maybe if I stop them, maybe I wouldn't be able to sing. Whatever these conditions are, for whatever reason, apathy is condemned. And so I think it's also hard, and we have to go against, sometimes even go against our nature to correct things because of that. And this shows our human tendency in the heavenly society when the feud erupted. We just kind of went along with the crowd. We weren't really sure, but we didn't really make a firm stand. We went along with it. And that's kind of like what we see here is, humans fail to make a firm stand, and they're apathetic when they're not able to make a firm stand. But God tells us in 4:95, God promises higher ranks for the strivers. It says, not equal are the sedentary among the believers who are not handicapped, and those who strive and exalt God with their money and their lives. God exalts the strivers with their money and their lives above the sedentary. For both God promises salvation, but God exalts the strivers over the sedentary with a great recompense. The higher ranks come from Him, as well as forgiveness and mercy. God is forgiver and most merciful. That they condemn those whose lives are terminated by the angels. While in a state of wronging their souls, the angels will ask them, "What was the matter with you?" They will say, "We were oppressed on earth." They will say, "Was God's earth not spacious enough for you to immigrate there?" For these, the final reward is hell and a miserable destiny. So, likewise, religious compromise is condemned. We see in 68:9, so they wish that you compromise, so they too can compromise. So we kind of did the exact same thing in the high heavenly view when we went along with the crowd. It's kind of similar when we say, yes, this is clearly wrong, but I don't want to compromise unity by pointing it out because that will basically upset someone, or it will just cause conflict, right? Whatever it is. But basically, for many reasons, humans will compromise. And then these people want you to compromise so they can also compromise. And we see the compromisers on the day of judgment, they will be in hell. It says in 74:14 and 15. Among us are the submitters, and among us are the compromisers. As for those who submitted, they are on the right path. As for compromisers, they will be fuel for Gehenna. So we know from the Quran that religious innovations are condemned. And there's many verses that point out the exact fact. So the idols innovating new laws. They follow idols who decree for them religious law never authorized by God. If it were not for a predetermined decision, they would have been judged immediately. Indeed, the transgressors have incurred a painful retribution. And the footnote says that the Islam of today's Muslim world has been so distorted, it has become a satanic cult. The ulama, or religious scholars, have added many extraneous laws, prohibitions, dress codes, dietary regulations, and religious practices never authorized by God. This is one of the main reasons for sending God's messenger to come. So basically, when these people follow these idols, they're not if people have attributed lies to Muhammad, right? And people are following those lies, they're not actually following Muhammad. They're actually idolizing the people who have created these laws, and they're worshiping them because they're following these idols. As you can see from the footnote, these are the idols that innovate these religious laws. So the practical scripture of Abraham is mathematically confirmed. So this is, we know that God has given us a messenger who clarified and presented the mathematical proof. So we know there were three messengers in submission, right? There was Abraham, who brought the practical scripture for us, namely the Salah, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj. Then we had Muhammad after that, who brought the final scripture, the Quran. And that is our written scripture. So Abraham got the practical scripture, Muhammad got the written scripture, and then for us, God sent the messenger of the covenant whose job was to provide the mathematical proof of authenticity for both. So these are the three main messengers in submission that we know now. So when the messenger comes, God says that the messengers will bring the complete message. That's their duty. So, what happened with Abraham's religion is we see that was a religion that was given to Abraham in 2:135. Submission Islam, Abraham's religion. They said you have to be Jewish or Christian to be guided. Say you follow the religion of Abraham, monotheism, he never was an idol worshiper. And the footnote says that the Quran repeatedly informs us that submission is the religion of Abraham. Abraham received a practical, quote-unquote, scripture, namely, all duties and practices of submission. And then it describes, namely, what those duties are. It names them. The contact prayers, salah, the ability to charity, Zakat, the fasting of Ramadan, and the Hajj pilgrimage. And Muhammad was a follower of Abraham's religion, as we see in 16:123, and so on. And then it says, we see in 16:123, he delivered this final testament, the Quran. The third messenger of submission delivered the religion's proof of authenticity. See 381 and appendices 1, 2, 24, and 26. So we have this practical scripture, we have written scripture, and then a messenger comes who provides proof for both. And when I say both, we know that the mathematical code for the Quran is there, right? But then he provides the mathematical proof of all the practices as well, as we'll see later. So Abraham's practical scripture is divine here. And the third messenger delivered the proof. I'm skipping a few slides. So one of the main duties of the messenger of the covenant, as we understand now, was to provide that proof of authenticity. And this includes Salah, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj. And the messenger of the covenant completed his mission and provided this proof. However, we see there's a verse that talks about a famous excuse. It says in 16:135, the idol worshippers say, had God willed, we would not worship any idol besides it, nor would our parents, nor would we prohibit anything besides his prohibitions. Those before them have done the same. Can the messengers do anything but deliver the complete message? The Quran proclaims that the Quran is complete, perfect, and fully detailed, as it's stated in Appendix 18. That any religious regulations that are not specifically instituted in the Quran constitute a religion other than Islam submission. So this passage is listed verbatim in Appendix 18, that any religious regulations that are not specifically instituted in the Quran constitute a religion other than submission. In 6:114, God tells us that the Quran is fully detailed. It says, shall I seek other than God as a source of law, when He has revealed to you the scripture this book fully detailed? Those who receive the scripture recognize that it has been revealed from your Lord truthfully. You shall not harbor any doubt. And actually, I don't have this here in the slide, so I'll just read the footnote for this verse here, for 6:114, because it's very important I read. Okay, it says, the Quran provides us the criteria that tells us whether we truly believe in the hereafter or merely give lip service. This important criteria is stated here in 17:45, 46, and 39, 45, and it says, upholding any source besides the Quran reflects disbelief in the Quran. I would also like to read 6:19. It says the Quran, the whole Quran, and nothing but the Quran. Say, whose testimony is the greatest? Say, God's. He is the witness between me and you that this Quran has been inspired to me to preach it to you and whomever it reaches. Indeed, you bear witness that there are other gods beside God. Say, I do not testify as you do. There is only one God, and I disown your idolatry. And then if we look at the footnote, it says, this verse proclaims the Quran as the only source of religious guidance. Those who uphold additional sources, such as Hadith and Sunnah, lied attributed to the Prophet, are defined as idolaters. So these two verses that I just read, they really stand out to me, because this shows us that, it's almost like a litmus test, where if you believe in the hereafter, truly, God will expose it to you, for you in this life, and this will be our proof in the hereafter. So if we truly believe in the hereafter, we will uphold the Quran as our only source of guidance. If we truly worship God alone, the Quran will be our only source of guidance. If we truly believe in the Quran, we will uphold the Quran alone. So, God willing, with this, let's repent to Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. I bear witness there is no other God but God, and there is no partners. So, based on these facts, we know that circumcision has never been mentioned in the Quran, coupled by the fact that the Messenger of the Covenant never delivered a single mathematical proof of authenticity for it, proves to us that it was never part of Abraham's practice scripture. Yet, because of the distortion in the previous scriptures, and because of the lies attributed to Abraham and Muhammad in the Hadith and Sunnah books, many people, unfortunately, who also identify themselves as submitters like me and you, have started to uphold circumcision as a religious practice in submission, and really going very strong and head-on in trying to legitimize it. The way I look at it, I see two sects, just like in the traditional Islam. We have the Shia sect, and then we have the Sunni sect. And so if you look at circumcision, the Sunni sect believes that circumcision is not a mandatory practice, but it's something that's advisable, it's recommended, and it's like, you go the extra mile, and it's like extra credit. And then you have the Shia sect, which believes that circumcision is a mandatory practice in religion, and if you don't circumcise, you're out of religion. And that's exactly, unfortunately, happening in submission. And we have two major groups, and one believes that it's extra credit, and you do it, it's like an optional thing because Abraham did it. And then another sect believes that it's a thing that we must do it, and if you don't do it, you're a disbeliever, and, the whole 9 yards. However, if we look at the mathematical proof, it's clear how the messenger did his job in providing the proof. So, as demonstrated in the video, Dr. Rashad Khalifa provided evidence that all religious practices are in Islam are mathematically coded, intertwined, and confirmed in the Quran.
So the mathematical proof of authenticity that I'm just about to share was delivered in the video, Friday's Sermons 1987 by Dr. Rashad Khalifa. And in this video, Dr. Rashad Khalifa provided evidence that all religious practices of Islam are mathematically coded, intertwined, and confirmed in the Quran.
Zakat, Siyam, fasting, and Hajj. Now, it turns out, you can look at the index of the Quran, and Salat is mentioned 67 times. Zakat is mentioned, I believe, 32 times. Siyam is 6 times, and Hajj 9 times. What are they? Yeah. Let us add these together. These are the numbers of times these basic duties in Islam are mentioned. 7 and 2 is 9, 15, 24. 2 and 6 is 8, and 3 is 11. 114. The same number of surahs as the Quran, or 19 times 6. Okay, that's not the big deal here. But this is profound. But what is really profound is that you take the word salat. Everywhere the word salat is found in the Quran. Take the number of the surah and the numbers of the verses. These are the numbers assigned to the ayat. And you add them up. And the total for salat is 4, 6, 7, 4. This is a multiple of 19. And then you take Siyam. We're going to take Siyam first. And you do the same thing. You take the numbers of the surahs and the numbers assigned to the verses and add them up. And the total is 1,387. A multiple of 19. This is 19 times 73. You take zakat, the 32 of them, everywhere the word zakat is found in the Quran. You take the number of the surah and the numbers assigned to the verses. And the total is 2395. Now the computer did all this. Now this here is not a multiple of 19. It is up by 1. But then you go to Hajj and you find that the total in the same manner is 645. This is not a multiple of 19, it is down by 1. So, but when you add all of them together, the total, of course, is a multiple of 19.
And so what we see there is, Salat is mentioned 67 times, obligatory charity, Zakat is mentioned 32 times, fasting is mentioned 6 times, and Hajj is mentioned 9 times. So if you add these numbers, 67 plus 32 plus 6 plus 9, it gives us 114, which is 19 times 6. So not only is this number a multiple of 19, it is the same number as the number of chapters in the Quran. So no such mathematical confirmation was delivered by Rashad Khalifa in the Quran that confirms circumcision. In fact, it was never even mentioned once. There's also mathematical proof for the authenticity of all practices delivered in Appendix 1. Number 1, the contact prayer, Salat. The word Salat occurs in the Quran 67 times. So when we add the number of surahs and the verses of these 67 occurrences, the total comes to 4674, or 19 times 246. Okay, number 2 is fasting. The commandment to fast is mentioned in 2, 183, 184, 185, 187, 196, 492, 589, 95, 33, 35, 35, and 58.4. The total of these numbers is 1387, or 19 times 73. It is noteworthy that 3335 mentions fasting twice, one for believing men and one for believing women. The obligatory charity Zakat and Hajj. While Salat and fasting are obligatory upon all Muslim men and women, the Zakat and Hajj are decreed only for those who can afford them. This explains the interesting mathematical phenomenon associated with Zakat and Hajj. The obligatory charity Zakat is mentioned in these verses right here, and these numbers add up to be 2,395. This total does not quite make it a multiple of 19. It is up by 1, interestingly. Now, if you look at Hajj, it occurs in 2,189, 196, 97, 93, and 2227. These numbers add up to be 645, and this total does not quite make it as a multiple of 19. It is down by 1. Thus, Zakat and Hajj together give a total of 2,395 plus 675 equals 3,040, which is 19 times 160. Once again, no such mathematical confirmation was delivered by Dr. Rashad Khalifa in the Quran that confirmed circumcision. In fact, it was not even mentioned once. Now, there is additional mathematical proof of authenticity delivered for the religious duties of submission in Appendix 15. Now, Appendix 15 really goes into a lot of detail. Once again, Abraham delivered the practical scripture, and then you have Muhammad who delivered the written scripture, and then Rashad Khalifa delivered the mathematical proof of authenticity of submission. And this includes the mathematical proof of both the Quran and the practices in submission. Since not even a single mathematical proof of authenticity was delivered by Dr. Rashad Khalifa in favor of circumcision, it is now mathematically proven by Dr. Rashad Khalifa that this practical scripture of Abraham consists of only 4 practices. These 4 practices are Salat, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj.
And at the end, I would like to play a short clip. This is actually an edited version of just a long video by Dr. Khalifa, so I just took some critical parts of it that I wanted to us to hear. And I've referenced the actual minute and time for when this is being said in the actual video. So if you'd like to look at the full video in the context, you can go and look it up that way.
Susan, if you're not following the Quran, the whole Quran, nothing but the Quran. See, if you're not, Susan, last year you spoke and you said lots of things that are not in the Quran. Our principle here is, if it is not in the Quran, we do not follow it, we do not believe it. If it is not in the Quran, you have to get rid of all those things. You come across the people who will try to divert you. Satan, you are the number 1 target of Satan. And this is in accordance with God's law. People will try to divert you and will use all kinds of tricks. And Satan will always work on you. He's not interested in those people out there, or idol worshippers, or disbelievers. And you follow God alone. You follow the word of God alone. The principle is very easy. If it is not in the Quran, we have no consideration for it. In this conference, you're going to hear lots of views, personal views of many people. Anybody can say anything they want. But your criterion is the Quran. If it is not in the Quran, don't believe it. No matter who is talking to you. Very simple principle. But this is what we follow. Even in this conference, Satan has to be represented, especially in this conference. Satan has to be represented, and you're going to hear some views and that are contrary to the Quran. And if you believe them, you deserve to believe. There may be 2 or 3 people who will be influenced. Because the purpose of these people who are bringing views other than the Quranic views is to at least put doubt in your heart. And as long as you have doubt in your heart, you're in the lowest rank of submission. Remember the verse in Surah 49, verse 11, I believe. It says, they said we are believers. God says, do not say you're believers, say you are Muslims. Until all doubt is gone. So their job is to put even a little bit of doubt in your heart. And when this happens, You know that God is testing you, and that, unfortunately, if the doubt comes in my heart, unfortunately, I still have some doubts. So I'm still in the lowest rank. I'm still on my way. It's not hopeless yet. But you must be aware of this principle. This is our principle. If it is not in the Quran, I don't believe it. It may or may not be correct. But if it is not in the Quran, I'm not following it.
So it's very clear, so we're, God, we ask God to guide us and strengthen us, and hopefully we all can pass our test and go back to God. Right here, after Salah. Let's pray. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.